Pay me, pay me, pay me my silver now. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my silver
Good
now.
morning, Bix Weir, roadtoroot.com. Yes, the world changed over the weekend. Again. It is clear that Cliff High's data that July 15th would be a big turning point in the world. But I'm going to talk about silver because that's the most important thing for Road to Root subscribers at this moment. On the private road, I'll talk about the show. And this is a show, by the way. Currently, the head of the Secret Service is being grilled. Kamala Harris being appointed by Joe Biden, literally trying to appoint by Joe Biden, is the biggest joke played on the American people. A person who can barely speak is literally appointing who the new president's going to be, or at least the running person for the Democrats. Not that we have free elections, but if Kamala Harris got in, what would change of the people who run Joe Biden? No, of course he's going to pick Kamala because it's the exact same people going to run the show. Nothing would change, and that's the key. The deep state wants to keep power. Not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about silver. Private road, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about other things going on in silver that I can't talk about. So go to roadtoroot.com. Currently, we are under $30, approaching the moving averages, which is really interesting because if you look at the moving averages, they continue to move up. The longer that the price of silver stays above the moving averages, those moving averages move up. That's the way it works. Current 100-day moving average is $28.28. That's pretty damn close to hitting that moving average. Now, why are the moving averages important? As our good friend, and we miss him a lot, and we miss his data analysis a lot, Ted Butler says that's how the riggers play the game. There are other tools they use to play the game. For example, the U.S. Mint hedge book, they use that to help rig the market. They use SLV, the inventories of SLV and other ETFs to help rig the market. They have quite a few tools, but the biggest tool is the derivative market as traded on the COMEX. Cover is run by a guy named Rustam Biddum, the head of the CFTC. On the board of commissioners for the CFTC, they have the appropriate people. They have a JP Morgan person there. They have a Citibank person there. Yes, of course, the whole thing's rigged. It's fake. The numbers are fake. There's so much fake stuff in America right now. But the key number one thing that I am focused on right now is the silver market. And why? Why is silver so important? Why do people even care? Why do 99.9% of the population of the world have no idea what's going on in silver? Because they want it that way. As I've said many times, silver is the bank killer. And you kill the banks, you kill the fiat monetary system. The derivative market is a massive $3 quadrillion bubble that could be popped with a silver pinprick. And that's all it takes. And our enemies know it. Our allies know it. Everybody knows it now. If you don't know it, listen for 5 minutes and you'll understand why. So they're gunning for the moving averages because what they think they can do, they'll short all the way up. When it's above the moving averages, they short to keep a cap on the price. And then they throw a whole bunch of silver contracts at the price of silver to literally dump it below the moving averages. And then you have your tech traders who only buy and sell when moving averages are hit. So they've been buyers, so they're long, and the commercial banks, the riggers, are short. So they're going right now. The price of silver is $28 and let's see, what is it? About $28.95. And again, the moving average, 100-day moving average, 28. So they're going to have to get it down about 50 cents. That's it. But what happens? What happens when they push the price under the moving averages? That's when the smart buyers, and they are huge, jump in and buy physical silver and take delivery. How do we know that? One of the smartest buyers on the planet is India. Look at India. India buys almost no silver until it breaches the moving averages. January, February, March of this year, was when the moving averages were breached. Right in here, this part of the year. That's when the moving averages were breached. And what happened? India bought not a little amount of silver. Look at this, 2,250 tons. That's 72 million. 72 million ounces of silver. That's a massive amount of silver. 72 million ounces of silver. That's a big amount of silver to buy in a month. So once this moving average is breached, watch India. Now China doesn't really report their numbers, but China's doing the same thing. And that won't be their full buy. Their full buy would be under the 200-day moving average, which is right now at $25.75. So we do have some downside potential. But once it hits that, massive amounts of physical silver comes out of the criminals' hands and goes into places like India and China. And what is India and China? What are they doing with their silver? Obviously, solar panels. Now, here's where I want to get to what I want to talk about today. What's going on with solar? What's going on with solar this year? Last year, we know solar was up 76%, and the Silver Institute said the amount of silver used in all that solar installation was only 38%. 76, basically they cut it exactly in half. 76, 38. I was shocked. All the numbers on the front of the Road to Rid website. Go to roadtorid.com, and the Silver Institute numbers are up there. Every one of those red boxes were historical numbers that they changed to make it look better. Is that fraud? Absolutely 100%. Is it legal? Who cares? They own the judges. They own the CFTC. They own the entire system is controlled by these criminals. That's why you can't look at price. Get your physical silver in your own possession, just like India's doing, just like China's doing. But I do want to point this out. For example, we're halfway through. And people say, well, Bix, last year was an anomaly. It was an anomaly. This year they're going to use a lot less solar panels because everybody has a stocked in inventory, so they're not making it anymore. That's bullshit. They are making it. They're continuing to make it because they're making a new type of solar panel that uses, and I've been throwing numbers out because I had learned them a long time ago, but there are many papers and real scientific type papers that shows what the amount of new silver goes into these TOPCon modules. This is one of the best reports I've seen on it. PERC uses about 90 milligrams of silver that's per cell. So if you take a percentage, TOPCon is on the low end is 45% more silver. On the high end is 70% more silver. Let's call it 50 to 60. That's conservative in my book. 50 to 60% more silver. So this year, if they make the same amount of solar panels, because about 90% are TOPCon right now, all the PERC modules sitting in warehouses will go unused. And at some point, when silver goes to $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, they're going to pull that silver out of that and put it back into the system. But not yet. So you might ask, well, if it's a problem, why are the manufacturing entities around the world using so much silver? Why don't they just use a different technology? Because it's not a problem. Why isn't it a problem? Because the price of silver never goes up. It's used in such tiny amounts in every single solar panel. Tiny, tiny amounts. That's not the big cost of solar panels at all. It should be, but it's not. It is irrelevant below $100. They're still going to use as much silver as possible because the efficiency of the solar panel is so much better, the TOPCon panels. And by the way, in the last 2 years, all manufacturing, mostly in China, 80, 90% is made in China. All manufacturing has transferred over to TOPCon. That won't end. That won't end until silver gets over $100, $200, $300. And they might still use it because they use such a small amount. But because they're making so many solar panels, it's a massive amount of silver. But they don't care. The price doesn't change because the price is rigged. This is what the Silver Institute and entities like that want to keep you in the dark, keep you, Mr. Silver Investor, Mrs. Silver Investor, in the dark as to what is happening behind the scenes. It is quite insane right now. And those people saying, oh, no, they're using less, bullshit. France records 1 gigawatt of new solar for the second quarter. Here's the chart of France. You see that this is the amount of solar installed. It really kicked in 2021. Everybody and their mothers building massive amounts of solar. We are going to make much more. There will be installed much more solar panels than was in last year. I don't know what that percentage is. Probably 50% more, which is crazy. But last year was 76% more. So let's just say we do the same thing as last year. Same thing as last year. How much more silver would be needed? Well, if it's all going to TOPCon, which is 45 to 75, say 50 to 60% more silver per panel, we should be, that's how much more silver will go in. Not quite that, because it was 30% TOPCon last year. This year will be 80 to 90% TOPCon. But it's not the same. Not the same amount of solar panels is being installed right now. We've already had many people reporting, and second half of the year is always bigger than the first half of the year. If you go to roadtoroad.com, you scroll down a little bit. Right here, this is the Bloomberg. Now, they haven't released the latest one, but this is last year. And this is what I was screaming about. This jump from 250 gigawatts of solar to 443 gigawatts. That's the 76%. The estimated 511 is wrong. We're already on track for close to 600 gigawatts, plus the extra 50 to 60%. That's why they have to hide the numbers. That's why they have to lie, cheat, and steal. That'll put us at about 600 million ounces of silver just going into solar panels. And yes, that number is absolutely crazy, because all this other stuff needs solar panels too. The rest of the electronics that use solar panels, right? And what about photography and jewelry and silverware and investors and alloys and solders? Sorry, you don't get any. These are entities and industries that absolutely 100% need and will buy physical silver at any price below their sale price, right? When will solar panels manufacturers stop buying silver? They won't. I've been throwing out $100 just because it sounds crazy that you'd make solar panels with $100 silver, but not much less than an ounce goes into each panel. Well, that's not true. I'm adding it up in my head. Into each cell. So there's all the cells and then 50 to 70 cells per solar panel, right? This is insane. This is a lie. This is a cheat. But this is the key. If you're a silver investor, this is the most important thing by far. Who is importing all the silver? India and China. Mainly China, but we don't know those numbers. China keeps it really close to hand, just how much silver they're importing. But India doesn't. I mean, they report it every month. They report it like clockwork. And this is what they did in February. Look at that, 72 million ounces in a single month. Why? Because it dropped below the moving averages. Let's look at the moving averages. We're about to drop below again. I would say they'd take up like maybe 30 or 40 million when it hits the first moving average. And if they get cocky enough, if the silver riggers get cocky enough to throw silver below $25.76, I would expect probably 100 million, 150 million physical ounces of silver will be taken out of the system by India. Who knows about China? Yes, that's why I'm saying this isn't going to last through the year. If you're able to get physical silver today, hold it in your possession for the remainder of the year. That's what we've been waiting for 175 years of silver price suppression. The 100% end of the comics. The futures and options control of the silver market. September, I've been saying September for over a year now is probably the prime spot for it. It's right before the election. It's the end of the fiscal year. There's 100 reasons why. And I'd watch September 11th and see what happens around there. That might happen in the background like it did in 2008. Yeah, 2008 was the day that the whole system almost ended, as in everything shut down. You'd have no checking account, savings account, 401k, none of it. No more stocks and bonds and all that. It was September 11th in 2008. How do I know that? Because Senator Kanjorski came on, it was like a NPR or some network, and said, we were in trouble. We had to bail out the banks. Otherwise, everybody would have lost everything. We were hours away from that happening. What have they fixed? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, yep. I mean, it's hard to root for silver to go down. I understand that. A lot of people say, well, Bix, why don't you just short it if you want it to go down? I'm like, hell no. I tried shorting silver stocks a long time ago. I lasted maybe 3 hours as I was sweating because I knew that when you're short, you have unlimited losses. Unlimited. If silver went from $30 to $300, every bank on the planet, the whole system would shut down. We know HSBC is the big comic short right now. From who's delivering? Who's delivering? HSBC. Also, Bank of America has this crazy lease structure. It was all put together beforehand. Jenny Moonstone told us it was going to happen long before it did happen. Again, by the way. So that's kind of where we are. The Silver Institute runs cover. The CFTC runs the regulator cover. This is all absolutely illegal and criminal, and the concentration of the short position in silver is bigger than any other commodity on the planet, by far. So that's where we are. And if you're wondering about what kind of silver is going into India, it shows it right here. Grain. There's bars, there's grain, and there's other. Others probably like paste. What do they do with grain? They make paste for their solar panels within India, or a lot of it goes into jewelry. Yes, jewelry, because India, that's the way they invest, gold and silver jewelry, the individuals in India. And they are the largest gold consumer on the planet. And they are, I believe now, they're the largest silver consumer, other than China, which doesn't tell you what's going on. I heard the Chinese government actually is telling their citizens to buy silver. You know, what would happen? 1.4 billion people are all being told, hey, buy silver. Yeah, this game, I mean, it is literally full court press. And they know what they're doing with this solar panel stuff. China is continually increasing production capacity of solar panels. They don't give a shit. That's why Janet Yellen went to China. Stop making solar panels. Stop making electric cars. We're running out of silver. She left that part off. But she did say, stop making solar panels. Stop making electric cars. Wait, China's like, what are you talking about? You yell at us for being the biggest polluter on the planet. So we're trying to fix the problem. And now you say, stop making this stuff? What is going on here, Ms. Yellen? Again, France, if you look at what they've done, these two colors right here is just the first half. So they are currently on pace to grow their solar capacity 38% in France. 38% for this year. Interesting. That's exactly half of what was going on last year when the same thing that the Silver Institute said. They said, oh, it's one half. But this is half a year. You double it or more because most solar panels are installed in the second half of the year. You're looking at, let's just say 40% growth. And that's happening across the board, probably more in China. So let's extrapolate that to, that's right around 150%. And you go back to this chart, 150% of 443. I'll give you the exact number. 150 times 443 is 665 gigawatts of solar to go in, and 80 to 90% of that will have 1.5 to 1.6 more silver. You see what's happening? Of course they're not going to get the price of silver to stay under the moving averages very long. Because China and India, they need that silver to make the solar panels to save the world, right? The green energy people, we got to save the world. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Weak demand continues to exert downward pressure on solar module prices. People keep sending me articles like this. Weak demand continues to exert downward pressure on solar module prices. What do you mean weak demand? The global demand's up 150%. Why are solar panel prices so cheap, and why are companies going out of business in the solar industry? It's because there's a massive glut. They're changing technology from PERC, which uses so much silver, to TOPCon, which uses 1.5 to 1.6 times the amount of silver that PERC was. And those PERC modules are just going to sit in warehouses all around the world. My estimate was there's 200 gigawatts of that shit sitting around. And most of it will never be deployed because it's a tiny cost. Now, what is the cost of building a solar plant? The biggest cost is the labor, at least in the U.S. And China is building massive facilities. Solar panels, as far as the eye can see, at COP28, the big environmental meeting, where all the countries agree, they said they're going to increase solar by 2030. 2030. What was it? 5x. Just solar panels. Hi, Amy. Amy just snuck in. I got a little, what's it called? Happy juice. No, not that kind of happy juice. So by 2030, it was a mandate, and everybody signed on to it. I'm like, how are they going to do that? It's impossible. There's not enough silver on the planet. So at some point, very soon, it will just stop. I don't see $100 silver prices. I don't see minus $40 silver prices. I see stoppage. It just will end instantaneously. And probably in September is my guess. That would be the most appropriate time for this game to end. So what can you do? As your average Joe out there, I got an extra $100 to invest in something this weekend. Go to your local silver store and say, I need it. Give me physical silver before the Indians take all of it or China takes all of it. Because as soon as it breaks those moving averages, boom. India kicks in and China kicks in. America, who knows? I mean, we're pretty dumb. The U.S., they believe in, I don't know, stocks and bonds and mining companies. Oh, my God. The ramifications of an explosion in the price of silver would mean that every single silver miner would shut down. They wouldn't sell their silver. That's the most important asset they have in the ground. Mexico especially. Mexico's been raped of their silver for a hell of a long time. Over 100 years. 1/3 of all silver has come from Mexico for pennies on the dollar. They literally sell it for pennies on the dollar. If Mexico closes exporting of silver, which they're close to right now anyway, they already proposed a ban on open pit mining, which goodbye silver. But they know now, the world knows that the whole system is rigged. And there is a way out. Get your physical silver. Get it in your own possession. Any way you can. If you don't have a local guy, the reason I say buy from your local guy, that's the guy you're going to be selling to. Most likely. All right, let's just say silver goes to $500 and you want to get, a couple grand. You're going to take 2 ounces of your silver and you're going to go to your local guy, John, Jim, Susie, Schmo, whatever their name is, and you're going to know them by then. You're going to hang out. You're going to talk silver conspiracy. You're going to talk what's better between silver and gold. You're going to talk, look at the solar panel manufacturing increase is crazy. So you're going to know them, and they're going to give you a good price. And you won't have to haggle as much as you did in the beginning. All you have to do is go to a local silver shop and say, hey, I want to make a relationship with you, but I want to make sure I get the best price. I don't want to fight with you every time. I'm going to talk to 3 other people in the area. or 2 other people in the area, and I want to deal with just one person. So give me the best price you can right now. I don't want to hassle with you about haggling and all that stuff. And then I'll keep coming back to you, and you'll have a customer for life. That's what you want to do. Now you have a hell of a lot of silver. You make sure they are fully funded. And that we will hit a time, by the way, that all silver will be called into question whether or not it's real. When silver's at $30 a pop, nobody really cares if it's real. They'll just buy it. Oh, that looks like a silver eagle. You do the ping test or the scratch and sniff test or whatever you want to do. And yeah, that's fine. But it's hard to do that with gold. You go in there with a 10-ounce gold bar, and at some point, if there's any question at all whether or not it is a fake bar with just a gold outside finish, and there's a lot of them out there. Now, would you really drill into a beautiful gold 100-ounce bar? Probably not, and nobody really does. But you probably should. There's a lot of fakes out there. And that will come into silver as the price goes up. So I highly recommend investing in the smaller denomination silver. I know it's more expensive. If you're really worried about that and you think the U.S. is going back to gold and silver standard, U.S. mint silver is the best way to go. And probably the cheapest you can get out there is the pre-65 coinage. So look into that. Again, I don't want to say root for the price of silver to go under the moving averages, but it would increase the speed of collapse of the market riggers. You might think, well, in Bix, they're going to close all their shorts. Great. That's great. They're also going to lose a lot of metal, and they're going to have to go short again as the price rises above the moving averages again. But right now, it's been a while. It's been a while since India has bought almost anything. Since March. April, May, June, July. And they're trying to get their domestic solar manufacturing capacity up. They're building solar TOPCon facilities in India. And they're selling a lot of them to the United States. I think more than China. I think there's some kind of ban on China, or getting to be a ban on China. China's selling their solar panels to us. But India sure is. I think that India is the biggest supplier right now. Not sure on that, and I read that somewhere. Anyway, please, it makes sense. Do it. This is not financial advice, but here's what I'm doing. How's that? So I think France will get probably double, because I think they're in on the game as well. Pretty much every country knows what's going on. And the U.S. is so stupid, thinking, oh, yeah, we're the U.S., we're the greatest financial entity ever. No, you're a rigging entity. You're a bunch of riggers. We are a bunch of riggers, not us. Our government and the banking cabal who are going down. So that's my take. Really interesting footage of the Ukrainian drone striking a Russian facility. I'm going to show you this and take a look at it, Dave. Did you see that? And now look at it. And you know what? It reminds me that if you're the Ukraine and the U.S. gives you, or somebody gives you a bunch of drones, how many are you going to need? I mean, it's a big explosion, and if you're at that impact spot, that's a big deal. But to take out that whole facility would take a few hundred drones. And when you think about, what kind of explosives can go into a drone, it's not that big a deal. If you look at it, look how big this facility is. It's huge. Look at that. That's a massive facility, and it's like a pea shooter. Big explosion, maybe it hits cement. Big explosion, you have a little hole in your cement, and then it's gone. So I get it's provocation and all that, and Russia will be pissed. Whether or not Russia and China go to war against the United States, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to hit the United States, probably the next couple of months is your best time to do it. In the history of the United States, we've never been weaker. I don't think. Or at least the last 100 years. And why? How did we end up here? How did we end up in a world where Joe Biden, a man who can barely speak, is the one who's trying to pick the president? I mean, how many Democrats are out there? And do you get a choice in any of this? Would you really pick Willie Brown Stripper as the president? I mean, it's insane. It is insane. But it is a show. We all know that. I'll talk about that on the private road this week. Anyway, that's what I got for you. Yes, the price of silver is down. They keep slamming it down. But if they're gunning for the moving averages, India is sitting there just licking their chops. China is sitting there licking their chops. Because this is a physical game. They can put any price they want on the COMEX. We know that. We saw it with oil. Minus $40 oil. Remember that? Yeah, you had an excuse. Oh, well, there was nowhere to store it. There can be plenty of excuses why they go minus $40 silver. It's, nowhere to store it. Silver's so heavy. Nobody cares about silver anymore. Solar panels were banned. Electric cars were banned. Good luck with that. But as we know, the amount that's going in is gigantic. I would expect 50% or more, probably now more, 75% growth in the amount of silver that will be consumed this year, if depending on what happens at the end of the year. I think there's so much chaos, we could see an end of globalization, which is part of the road to Ruta. That's what Ruta says in the road to Ruta documents that I got from the Fed Boston. Is Ruta says people stop trading with each other as part of the end game, and it makes sense. Who would want to trade with us, right? If fiat money is gone, what do you trade with? Shit like that. Anyway, that's what I got. We are currently giving away the Crypto for the Future, Theta Fuel, and T-Drop. All loaded on a paper wallet with a private road subscription. You get access to all the private road stuff, and there's a lot of private road stuff. So go check it out at roadtoruta.com. It's $2.99 for a full year, less than $1 a day. This is Bix Weir. I'll talk to you later.